This is a Ferrari 296 GTS. And that is a jerry can.
Brand new.
And this is a Lamborghini with no fuel. You can take the man out the ghetto, but you can't take the ghetto out the man. So, I'm gonna be honest, we've been busy living our best lives. Ed and Nuno went to Portugal for a few days, and Ali, Ricky and myself went to Ireland to watch some drifting.
Here we go! 1, 2,
So this episode is just going to be a quick update. And first of all is this fuel tank. And it's for this carbon fibre E46. Yes, it's real carbon fibre. We're making some crucial modifications to it in order to fit this engine. A 420 horsepower S65 V8 from the E92 M3. Oh, and we're still using the DCT gearbox.
Why? Oh, I f***ed that one, didn't I? Did you just see it open? If you haven't been keeping up with the channel, we're building an E46 M3 with an S65 V8 from the E92 M3. Because of those things, we have to change quite a lot. One of the key components is fueling, because the V8 runs in a returnless fuel system, whereas the E46 has like a built-in fuel pressure regulator, it's got a return line back into tank, etc. So this is an E46 fuel tank, and we are adapting it so that works with a V8. Gone are loads of the breather lines and charcoal canister and all that sort of shit. There is some new bits that we're adding. So you can see these tops. That's an OEM top. This one is not. So this is a ProTech, I believe, motorsport fuel pump system. So what this allows us to do is it allows to run a 3-phase fuel pump, as you can see, 3-wire, 3-phase fuel pump, which is still controlled by the EKP that an E92 runs. Because they don't have a return line as such, the pressure on an E92 M3 is monitored at the pump. So the E92 has a tiny little fuel pressure regulator inside the tank, which just bleeds off anyway at 6 bar, but it has a sensor right before the fuel rail of the engine, and that communicates with the DME and tells the fuel pump, we need more fuel, we need less fuel. So that way, it does away with the return line of a constant pressure working all the time. This is a breather system that I'm putting together for the car. This is a return line for my fuel pressure regulator. This is my fuel pressure regulator. Although I don't need one, it's what causes a lot of these injectors to stick open often is the excess pressure and relying on the bleed-off valves to actually do their job. Because we no longer have a bleed-off valve in the tank because we're not using an OEM M3 V8 fuel pump, we're using the ProTech one. I've got a proper fuel lab, fuel pressure regulator, which will be hidden. So this is the return from that fuel pressure regulator. So on one of the main lines from the car, which will come from this section here, which is the main high pressure feed from the pump, there will be an offshoot teed off into the fuel pressure regulator, set at 6 bar. So no matter what happens, EKP talks to the fuel pump, sensor talks to the EKP, we will never exceed 6 bar of fuel pressure because we'll have a mechanical fuel pressure regulator set. So that's what we're doing with this section here. We're connecting all the lines and making it all neat and fireproof, etc. underneath the car. One of the things I'm actually doing is throughout the fuel tank lid inside the car, these bad boys, we are having, which are also known as firewall fittings. So basically, I'll have the fitting through the little tank lids, and one of them will connect to there. Another one will connect to the high pressure line, and then another one will actually connect to the return. So we get rid of this and making it heater. So the only resemblance in the car you will see that is different to an E46 M3 with an S54 will be 3 of these connectors sticking out the back with some lines running into them. I'm running the lines internally. Last time the car set on fire, it was very close to burning the entire thing down. So no fuel lines near the manifolds. Everything's been done internally, fire sleeved and away from heat. So this is the fuel system. Let's keep watching and learning. The ATEC fuel line, and then that's gonna hopefully give us a nice little
So in order to tidy up some of the new pipes and hoses that we'll be installing on top of the fuel tank, Ed is designing and printing a bracket that will hold them all in place. Ed's very smart, and he says you should like the video, subscribe and press the notification bell.
Yeah, but if you have that there...
That stays the same.
Yeah, so if you have this section...
It's just the circle I changed.
If you have this section there,
Yeah.
then this doesn't need to be tight at all. But if you look... Are you sure it's 12?
That's 12, this is 13 and a half, and the whole is 13.
Oh, 13 and a half.
Yeah.
So if you make it...
I'll make it 13 and a half exactly.
Yeah, and make the top
And then
section.
the top is the same.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
Moving on to the bodywork of the E46, Nuno's continuing the arduous process of sanding and resining and sanding and resining and more sanding. And then some more resining and some more sanding. We're slowly getting there.
I know I should be wearing a mask, but it's like midnight. As you've probably seen on the previous video, we've got the full carbon shebang. So the current process on the shell is, this was the heavy coat of resin. After this coat of resin, there's a full sand at 120 grit, and then another sand at 240 grit, and then after that there's one extra light coat of resin to go on. After the next coat of resin, it's then a sort of 400, 800, 1200, 1500 sort of grit situation. We'll then lacquer the entire car with a high solid 2K lacquer. Once that's done, we'll then flatten the lacquer down, probably to maybe 600 or 800. The tint will be applied to that. There's an extra pinstripe I'm adding to the car as well. I'm not saying what colour. It'll match the little bits of the interior. That then gets added on top of the tint, and then we'll re-lack the entire thing 3 or 4 times. The reason why we want to lacquer over the resin and then do the paint is if we ever need to do any repairs or anything like that, we've not painted onto resin. We've actually got that extra sort of sealing coat of lacquer over the resin. So if we ever needed to take all the paint off, it'd take a while, but we could sand and flatten all the way back down to lacquer or resin, and then go again without having to touch any of the actual sort of carbon infrastructure. I don't think I realised how long this was going to take, if I'm honest. Will I do it again? Don't know. Depends how it ends up looking, but I think in terms of man hours, not including the roll cage because we didn't do that, but not including that, we're at around 160 hours of labour, and it's not even f***ing painted. So yeah, but we move. We have a block, we have a swage line, we move.
So if you weren't around for the last video on this car, we actually painted the interior, and you should definitely go watch that.
Living his life. Living his best life. Don't know, mate.